John Galliano is now going to design at Zara. They announced a 2-year creative partnership, as you can see via Zara's official Instagram page. Zara announces a 2-year creative partnership with John Galliano, who will re-author the brand's archives through a series of seasonal collections. Mr. Galliano will be working directly with garments from Zara's past seasons, deconstructing and reconfiguring them into new seasonal expressions and creations. Guided by couture process and authorship, the collections will be released seasonally over the course of the partnership beginning in September 2026. Now, something that's really interesting about this is it's very vague, because does this mean that this partnership is sustainable in the sense that obviously Zara, fast fashion, they probably have tons and tons of unsold clothing that he can work with? Is he deconstructing and reconstructing that? I saw in a BOF article, they said with the use of new materials. So I think they're being vague on purpose. But yeah, I think this news is really interesting for so many reasons. I mean, where do we even start? I remember when there were all these creative director appointments and everyone was speculating, oh, is John Galliano going to go to Versace? Is John Galliano going to go to Alaya? Like all this sort of stuff. So I think Zara was definitely not on anyone's bingo card. Now, this whole, strategy of fast fashion brands tapping these really high level couturiers and designers is nothing new. I have been, talking about this for quite a while now. I feel like it's a broken record, the amount of times that, I bring this point up. But these fast fashion brands, they are trying to elevate their product offering, and they're trying to elevate the perception of how, people perceive these brands. They don't want to be fast fashion anymore. They have been kicked in the butt by the ultra fast fashion brands like Shein. And Shein, I believe in 2023, generated $32.2 billion, and H&M generated 22 billion. So you can see there's a huge disparity. So these fast fashion brands, they know for a fact they can't compete. So they have decided the only way they can survive is to elevate their clothing and kind of become mid-level brands, like affordable luxury, kind of enter that category. That's why H&M has had those massive runway shows. There was a recent one that I covered in London. Zara has been doing this a lot. Zara has also been tapping so many other designers. So you guys might remember, for example, recently Zara tapped Stefano Pilati and he's designed a few collections there. The collections actually weren't bad, to be fair. They're actually quite decent. So yeah, they've worked with Stefano Pilati. This is some of the collection here. For those of you that haven't seen some of the pieces. Also very recently, Zara worked with the designer Ludovic de Saint-Sernin. He designed a collection with Zara as well and had that huge campaign that was quite viral on social media. So this is kind of part of the strategy for these fast fashion brands, right? They're tapping, someone said Samuel Ross. That's true. Samuel Ross did also. He was tapped to do a collection with Zara. So they've been tapping a lot of these cool brands, cool designers, and they're hoping, I guess, that over time, the perception will just change of what Zara is. Because, it's all about what people grow up with. So I'm Gen Z, and I think for Gen Z and millennials, it's kind of already too late. We see fast fashion as fast fashion. But for the younger demographics, this might be how they kind of mentally change the way that these people perceive the likes of a Zara or the likes of a H&M. And maybe over time, people genuinely start to see these brands as affordable luxury. I personally think that the whole thing is a scam. Because why I say it's a whole scam is because if these fast fashion brands are increasing prices to try and be seen as, affordable luxury, but the quality is the same or it's getting worse, which in the case of most of these brands, the quality constantly goes down, then that's kind of a scam, isn't it? It makes sense if the prices go up in line with inflation, but we all know watching the stream that that's not the case. That's not what happens most of the time. That's not what happens. So yeah, someone said it's a scam, it's marketing propaganda, aka liars. Yeah, that's the thing. Let me see what you guys are saying. What do you guys in general feel about John Galliano? Do you like it? I will say though, it's kind of like with these fast fashion things, it's a big dilemma. I'll tell you why it's a big dilemma. So the problem is, a lot of the time, designers say, especially luxury designers, they say that they are kind of upset that their work and their designs aren't accessible to more people. So that's normally the argument that a lot of people make when they work with fast fashion. You could make the argument that it's kind of a cop out because, you know, you're just making money and that's kind of like a good excuse. Or there's some people that genuinely mean that. Like I know Kanye West, for example, he wanted to work with fast fashion brands because he genuinely wanted, like it was genuine, like he wanted more people to have access to his designs. So he always pushed to make it cheaper and cheaper and more accessible and more accessible. So there are some designers like that. So it's like, how do we see the Galliano situation with Zara? Some people have tried to make the argument that it's the case that he wants his design to be more accessible. Some people are saying he's just there to take the money from Zara because they have all this money, like Inditex, I mean, has a lot of money. So I'm curious to know kind of, you know, what direction you guys think it's coming from. Someone saying crazy that Galliano accepted this job. And this is like when Tyskins did Theory. I don't like Galliano doing this, but I could see a friend of mine grabbing something from his collections for the affordability if it's well designed. Margiela was a visionary in seeing this happening ages ago. Good for him. Yeah, I mean, all of those Belgian designers saw that happening. That's why they all quit, apart from Dries Van Noten and Walter van Beirendonck. So yeah. How does this line up with the alleged Galliano Met Gala in 2027, according to Dana Thomas? Is this for money to revive his label or publicity to court Dior for a return? I mean, if you're trying to court Galliano for a Dior role, first of all, I think JW Anderson is going to be there for a while, it seems. Secondly, I don't know. I just think they just offered him a lot of money. I honestly think that's what it is. So it's kind of, they offered him a lot of money, probably money that it's almost impossible to refuse. And so he ended up, you know, saying yes. I don't think it's any deeper than that, to be honest. But the Met Gala return, because initially, according to that article, I remember, Luke, what you're talking about. Initially, the reason why they didn't want John Galliano to be the theme of the Met Gala is because they were like, oh, he's too problematic. And considering, you know, what's going on politically in Israel, for example, it would just be insane to have John Galliano as the theme. 2 years later, it's still kind of a similar political situation. So that hasn't changed. So I can't see anytime soon Galliano being the Met Gala theme. I just don't see it. Culture says yes, but the quality. Yeah, you know what? I don't think I've ever bought anything from Zara in my entire life. So I don't actually really know how good or bad the quality is. Some people tell me, like I like to talk to normal people. When I say normal people, I mean people that aren't so deep into fashion like me, just to get their opinions on fashion. And a lot of people I know that buy Zara, like some of my friends or like just people I know personally, they say that it lasts really long and the quality isn't too bad. Like people I know see Zara as like luxury, which is crazy from my perspective, but like that's how people see it. So I don't know. How bad is the quality? I'm guessing it's bad because I mean it's Zara, but how bad is it? Also, it's not really explicit that it's all upcycled. Yeah, I don't know if it is all upcycled or not. That's why I was saying earlier, they're being a bit vague about it. I don't like how vague they are about the whole thing, to be honest. Someone saying, I hope he's trying to revive his label. I don't think that's up to him. LVMH still owns the rights to his namesake label, right? So yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'd rather have Galliano than Bezos. We're not going to get rid of Bezos. They're buying up the whole Met Gala. They own it at this point. But he's also a man of integrity, so he would have only accepted it if it would have led to something after. LVMH selling his label back to him. I don't think he would go to Zara to love Zara. Galliano, a man of integrity. How can you say that for certain? I mean, I don't know him personally, but I don't know, that's a big statement. Bro, Gen Z Alpha doesn't romanticize fashion or fashion history. This will work well as a bridge to most people without knowledge of fashion history. Yeah, 100%. The crazy thing, not that I'm like okaying what Galliano is doing or whatever. It's just, I don't, like, some people don't understand how tiny, like, there's a reason why all my streams get less than 10k views, because the kind of topics that I cover are really niche. Most people do not care about the stuff we talk about on these streams, right? I just like it and I'm interested. So I appreciate this tiny corner of the internet I've been able to galvanize. But most people don't care. Most people are just going to be like, cool designer at Zara, I'm going to buy it. That's kind of what most people are going to do. I don't think morally that many people care. And, you know, it's sad, but that's just the reality. Yeah, someone talking about Bad Bunny wore Zara at the Super Bowl, money talks. Yeah, that was a big talking point around the Super Bowl. A lot of people are talking about that. I hate how people are trying to justify or intellectualize this move. Galliano knows full well what Zara has done and continues to do. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. How do these luxury brand designers really feel about the cheap fabrics, poor crafting that their designs are manufactured into? Do they not care, or do they cringe and bear it for the money? I honestly think that it's the money. It's the money. And I think they weigh the pros and cons. I think they weigh they weigh if it's going to affect their legacy negatively or not. Right? Going back to me, when I did that thing with H&M, right? And people were like, oh my God, you worked with H&M. And I was trying to make the argument that like, I cover these fast fashion stories anyway. So H&M were like, we'll pay you to say what you already say, which is literally like this conversation we're having. Zara hasn't paid me to like talk about John Galliano at Zara, right? But if they did pay me, we'd still have the exact same conversation. So it's like, sometimes you can do things in a way that it doesn't really change anything. That's not really the case for designers though. I can't lie. Designers can't really use that argument because they're not going to design for a fast fashion brand anyway if they're paid or if they're not paid. But what I'm making that point to rationalize that maybe for Galliano, he's weighed how much backlash he thinks he's going to get versus how worth it is, I guess, for him in terms of how much he was paid. I guess that's just what it is. I think that's what it is. High-end brands charging $800 for brass jewelry. The silver tone brass. They should pay me to not talk about them. I'm doing... Yeah, exactly. Everyone has a price too, even Galliano, and especially in fashion. That's true. That's definitely true. And no matter how you slice it, it's a stain to the resume. Maybe, but I don't know. Okay. Do you know why I don't know? Karl Lagerfeld, right, is someone who I guess we can say is the reason why this whole high fashion designers and couturiers are working with fast fashion brands. Karl Lagerfeld was the start of it with his collaboration with H&M. Since at H&M, we've seen many collaborations. Off the top of my head, we've seen Maison Margiela, Simone Rocha, Balmain, Kenzo, so many others. Anyway, you guys get the point. I don't think that Karl Lagerfeld working with H&M has actually affected his legacy in any way, if we're going to be really honest. Like when people talk about Karl Lagerfeld as a designer, when people talk about Karl Lagerfeld negatively, it's more him as a person. Like his persona, the sexist things he said, the fatphobic things he said, the body shaming things he said. That's more the like critique I've seen that he gets. I don't think he gets much negative critique from working with H&M. So I don't know. It may be to some people it's sustained, but I just don't know that, you know, in 10 years from now or like, let's say after Galliano passes, 20 years after he passes, people will be like, oh, but the one terrible thing was that he worked with Zara. I don't know if that will be like a really big talking point. If we're just going based on kind of a lot of other designers that have worked with fast fashion brands, I don't know. But let me know what you guys think in the chat. I'm curious to get your thoughts. Luke says, but Carl's collab was with his eponymous label, which was never luxury anyway. It was a contemporary label. Chanel under Carl would never have collabed with H&M, but Galliano has always been luxury. True, but it's still kind of... When we think of Karl Lagerfeld for H&M, we don't really think of it being a collaboration between his eponymous label and H&M. We just think Karl Lagerfeld, the man, designed a collection for H&M. That's how like we mentally think about it. This probably gives Galliano the chance to have a more relaxed design process. And at this age, does he really want to be pumping out all those collections at a major house? Probably. I think after because this contract I know is 2 years old. After the contract expires, I'm very sure that Galliano is going to end up at some big house. For sure. I mean, it's John Galliano. John Galliano is probably the kind of person that will be designing until his last breath. He's just one of those kind of people. I think the problem is the jump Galliano is taking us more intense than those previous designers coming out of retirement for this. Hits harder. I mean, did Galliano retire though? Can we call it coming out of retirement? Or can we just call it his break has ended? Leo says, I don't think it's bad for a designer to want their designs to be vastly accessible. I also think there is a crowd of people that idolize his mystique, but have never been able to afford it. Totally agree. They do have a point though. We're a lot more conscious towards fast fashion than we were when Karl worked with them. Good point. Good point. I just question the extent to which Galliano's work at Zara will even be accessible, because if they're looking to use this as a vessel to begin price hiking, this is just nasty. Now, that's a very good point, because I want to know the price point of his Zara. Because obviously Zara has like their Zara studio thing that's like more expensive and supposed to be made with like better quality fabrics. Whatever, Zara Atelier, Zara Studio, whatever they call it. And the like Stefano Pilati stuff, the Ludovic de Saint-Sernin stuff is like that line, so it's more expensive. So Galliano stuff, when they say more accessible, it doesn't mean £50 for a jacket or like $70 for it. It means like $250 for a coat. That's kind of what it means when they say it's going to be. It's definitely going to be like way more expensive than the typical mainline stuff that they make, for sure. That's like 100% for sure. Let's see. People are also surprised because they see him as such a couturier, so there's an expectation that he works in a very pure way. But from Dior Margiela to this is a sad downgrade. Yeah, I mean, perception-wise, it's definitely a big downgrade, if we're going to be honest. Like, 100%. 100%. Didn't Random Identity, if you're talking about Stefano Pilati, my understanding is that Random Identity's closed down, no? As far as I know. His first collection after graduating retailed $1,000 for like a coat, and that was in the 80s. Why is Zara going luxury when no one has money? Doesn't it make more sense to stay affordable? So they're not going luxury per se, they're going affordable luxury. I think there has to be, like, there's a big difference there. I think it has to be like mentioned that there's like a massive difference between like luxury and affordable luxury. Yeah, they're not going to luxury. Something I did kind of want to show you guys, because Reuters had this like amazing article that you guys should check out like years ago. I remember covering it. It's this article here. It's how Shein outgrew Zara and H&M and pioneered fast fashion 2.0. And it essentially highlights what I talk about very often when I say that this is how this ultra fast fashion, this new category of fast fashion, has kind of forced the hand of these other brands. And they have this amazing chart here that shows you how much more revenue Shein makes than other typical fast fashion companies. So like Forever 21, Boohoo, ASOS, Primark, H&M. Inditex is close, but Shein is growing at a much faster rate than Inditex. So you can see the huge disparity between Shein and all the other fast fashion brands. So that's why. That's literally why they've been forced to change their strategy. Yeah, like Dr. Jean said, it's happening because they're getting their ass kicked in their own league. Exactly. Literally. They are the Detroit Pistons of fast fashion right now. Kerry Taylor's book says the long coat retails for around £500, which was equivalent to an average monthly wage at the time. So that's not really unreal, only because, Luke, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it was very normalized to spend a high percentage of your wage on clothing. And that's why clothing wasn't really cheap. Like, so for example, designers like Bibba, she was kind of like making more trendy stuff, kind of like Mary Quant clothing, but more affordable. And at that time when she was designing, like you think of like the 70s, for example, you would actually notice that even her clothing that was considered more affordable, more accessible, would still cost like a wage's worth. It's just, that's why people back then used to have less clothing. They just used to wear the same clothing over and over again, and the quality was good. Nowadays, because as customers, we have insane expectations. That's why it's crazy now that even something affordable should not be anywhere close like a wage, because it's just not how we treat fashion. It's not, the market isn't like that anymore. People are more throwaway with the way that they purchase clothing and the way that they use clothing. We just have different spending habits and a different relationship with our clothing these days. How would we react if the collab was with Shein instead? I feel like we would crucify him a lot more, but they're both as bad as each other. No, Shein is significantly worse than Zara. I wouldn't say that Zara and Shein are as bad as each other, to be very honest with you. I'd say that Shein is like way worse than Zara. Like, it's really bad. Really, really bad, to be honest. Do you know what I want to do? I want to see what the response is on the Zara page, just to get like an understanding of what the current temperature is around John Galliano's appointment. It's not really an appointment, it's just like an announcement of him designing collections for 2 years. But just see kind of like what people feel about it. Someone is saying the legend returns. This is so mega. I'm confused about the press release. Is he directly working with old stock, meaning the old clothes will be repurposed? Or is he just redesigning them, meaning the new designs will be made from scratch? Yeah, I had like a similar question. It's so vague. Someone needs to clarify that. But I kind of feel like maybe they didn't clarify it on purpose. Maybe they're not clarifying it on purpose because maybe it isn't so sustainable. So it's kind of like they would rather let us speculate because it gives them plausible deniability, which is typical. Let's see. Officially, my favorite brand now is Zara. So what brand did this person like before? Questionable. Someone is saying we're in for a treat. Okay, so it's quite positive on the Zara page. Take my money, the legend returns. Okay, someone is asking me, I think Luke is asking me to look at the comments on One Granary. So let me see what's being said. Okay, One Granary is the complete opposite. Also says rest in poo. Darlings, it's probably a licensing agreement, Zara Designs. Galliano's name's printed on it and he gets his royalties. The wording is misleading and probably part of the contract. Boo, I don't know what to say. Oh dear, the whole social media brand ambassadors and designers flip-flopping from label to label has killed it. Stick with the classic labels. I checked if it's April 1st today. This is so iconic and ironic because King Galliano is literally saying fuck what fashion became and this is how I see you all. Okay, that's not what Galliano... I can, as a journalist, I tend to play devil's advocate a lot. So I like argue for and against things like I did for Galliano. But let's be fucking for real. Like, what is this person saying? Galliano is saying, fuck what fashion became. This is how I see you all. This is not a drastic switch, but a deeper message. High fashion and fast fashion became the same, reposing on two things, image and quantity. Genius move from him. I don't even want to know the amount of zeros on a contract. Genius move. Let's relax. This person is coping. This is like elite coping. That coping is crazy. Relax. Like, this was not an intelligent move. They offered him money. He's a free agent. And he signed the contract. Like, people need to relax about this was such a genius move. And, you know, it's just talking about how fast fashion has become intertwined with luxury fashion and him collecting millions as a designer at Zara is a commentary on the world that we live in currently and the state of the fashion, the state of the fashion system as we live in it. Like, come on. That's the kind of thing that a Demna fan would say about a Demna collection, where Demna designs an IKEA bag and then they're like, this is just a sensational commentary on how IKEA and the bags of the working class can be recontextualized into a luxury landscape. And what Demna wanted to do is this intellectual commentary on kind of the daily bags that we use and kind of how we sort of interact with these different objects that carry our items on a daily basis. It's like, relax. But anyway, those are my thoughts on John Galliano's appointment or kind of him designing collections at Zara. I'm very curious to see what they look like, what the quality will be like. The price point will also be very interesting because, yeah, I want to know how accessible is it going to be. So yeah, that should be very, very interesting. This YouTube channel runs on your support. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content that includes everything from my Patreon podcast, where I give a behind-the-scenes insight into the fashion industry, as well as a fashion book club, where I review my favorite fashion books. You can also check out my fashion ebook, which highlights the best fashion journalists to follow, definitions of common fashion terminology, and how to determine what a good source of fashion information is. The links to everything are in the description below.